I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, Pamela Hilliard Owens. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
Oh, I'm doing wonderfully. It's very, very cold, but it's almost December, so it's almost Thanksgiving here in the States. So cold is okay if you live in if you live in my area.
And what state are you in right now?
I'm in Michigan. I'm in Detroit, Michigan.
All right. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
Which of my talents? If you call podcasting a talent, but actually being active on social media, because you know what? And I apologize. I saw your request way back in September, and like I said, I somehow I missed it. But then Jonathan contacted me via LinkedIn because I'm very active there. And then he reminded me that you had asked for these podcast guests, a couple of months ago. So he said, go do one. So that's how I reconnected with you. And I guess my number one talent is really staying very active on all my social media. I meet the most wonderful people, both personally and professionally this way. So
Wonderful. Is it Jonathan Strickland you're speaking about?
no, Jonathan Senior.
Senior, okay. All right, cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, I did have him on the podcast. All right.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah, well, that is good. Tell us about your podcast, the name of it, and what you do there.
Okay, the name of my podcast is YB2C Live, and that stands for my company, Your Business, Your Brand Creatively. And through my business, I work with primarily entrepreneurs, freelancers, solo and creative professionals on branding and marketing and communications for their businesses. And actually, YB2C is my third company. I started my first company 9 years ago, writing it right for you as writing and editing. But a lot of my clients, some of my clients, I should say, were writers who wanted to become published authors. And once we edited their manuscripts, they didn't know where to go from there. So I started my second company, Detroit Ink Publishing. And that is an independent publishing house where we work with writers who want to become published authors and go the self-publishing route, or prepare to try for traditional publishing. But then my husband, who is my business partner, who was a journalist, but also a musician, we run into a lot of creative people, writers, designers, musicians, artists, things like that, who were great at their art, but didn't know how to do the business side. So that's when I started my third company, Your Business, Your Brand Creatively, which is abbreviated YB2C. And like I said, who we work with there. And from there came the podcast because we work primarily with entrepreneurs and freelancers. And actually, a radio station approached me to do a radio show. Said, "Oh, you know so much, you could do this on a radio show." And we did start out as a radio show in October of 2016. But we very quickly moved from the radio show to the podcast. It was a much better business decision, and we have complete control over it, and we are really enjoying it. We just finished our first year, and we're really, really enjoying it. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. Entrepreneurs and freelancers that, of course, promote their companies, but also, the successes and challenges and tips and things for being an entrepreneur or freelance business.
That's wonderful. Glad to hear this. Wow, you've been doing the work, and you're doing it you're doing the work consistently on what is bringing value, and you're listening, which is so important.
Exactly.
Yeah, tell me why you'll continue, Pamela. Why will you continue this work?
Because I love it. One of the reasons why I went into business for myself was, as a matter of fact, my book is coming out in February called My Third Career, because being an entrepreneur is my third career. I started out as an educator. I knew in second grade I wanted to be an English teacher, and I became an English teacher, language arts consultant. I did teaching from preschool all the way through college, and then I got into sales. I don't know how I did that, but I just like sales. Got into sales, both corporate and direct and network sales. Did that for several years. And then in 2008, I put the two of them together and started my own writing and editing business. And I sat down in June of 2008 in front of the computer and had no idea what I was doing, but knew I wanted to go into business. And that's what I did. I spent the entire month of June teaching myself how to go into business. It never even occurred to me that 2008 was the middle of the Great Recession. All I knew was that I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. And so I made my own little static one-page website. You can imagine what a website looked like 9 years ago. But it got me business, and I just grew from there.
That's amazing. It seems as though they spelled your last name wrong. I think they mixed up where the N was supposed to be. Because you definitely are owning your space. So
that's true. That's true.
That is great. That is great.
Yeah.
Tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
Okay, over the last 3 years, what I've done consistently is continue, again, with the outreach. I tell my clients, that you have to prime the pump. And from that phrase from the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Well, not necessarily. After you build it, you have to continually market yourself and bring people to you. You just can't sit there and wait for people to come to you. You have to do the work to have them find you. And then, of course, what you said, offering value. Because there are a lot of entrepreneurs, there are a lot of freelancers out here, and I tell my clients over and over, never ever compete on price. There will always be someone somewhere in the world cheaper than you. So what are you bringing to the table that justifies them wanting to work with you? And so that's what I've been doing consistently.
You definitely did the work, Pamela. How does it make you feel doing all of this work?
I love it. I love it. I'm expanding again in 2008. I'm already global. 3 months after I opened my business, a young man from Qatar, the smallest Middle Eastern country, was studying. He had been speaking English for 3 years. He was getting his PhD at a university in the UK, and he found me from my little one-page static website. And he hired me because he needed an English language editor. Wow. And that was I opened in July. He found me in September of 2008, and the next thing I knew, I had a whole Middle East office with from all over the Middle East who were studying in English-speaking countries. And then I got people from Russia and Thailand and Australia and New Zealand. Next thing I knew, I was a global business. So I really, really enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy working with people. I enjoy meeting people and helping people with whatever their challenges are to find the solutions that are best for them.
Why would you suggest that someone that's listening do what you've done by taking action when you were sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Right, exactly. Well, first of all, decide what you want. And second, after you decide what you want out of your life and out of your business, then decide how you can help others. I know a lot of people go in with the first thing on their mind is making money. Of course, you have to make money, but that should be secondary. And you've heard the thing: if you follow your passion and the money will follow. Well, yes and no. You need to be passionate about what you're doing, but you also have to work for it. And you have to decide that you're going to work at least as hard for yourself as you were working for someone else, and usually harder for yourself than when you are working for someone else. And then my third tip later on would be, depending on the size and scope of your business, get some help. One of the reasons my business has grown is because I have hired, as contractors, I don't have any employees. Everyone who works for me is a contractor. Virtual assistants, virtual and on-site assistants to help me with the back office administration and other things, so that I can spend most of my time doing what I do best, working with clients.
Amazing audience, you're hearing it live here. Value overload. Pamela Hilliard Owens, right? Definitely bringing the value. Do check out her podcast, which is Your Business, Your Brand Creatively. My apologies. Your Business, Your Brand Creatively. So you could check it out as it's shortened at YB2C Live. Yeah.
Yes, and it's on iTunes.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Well, Pamela, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water.
Oh.
Pamela, what is your earliest childhood memory?
And I have on my screen your questions. My earliest childhood memory is when I was about 2 years old, and I was the oldest child. So I remember being about 2 years old. We lived in a 4-family flat. And I remember I don't know if you remember these big blue speckled roasting pans.
Yeah.
And well, I remember, I don't know who borrowed it from whom, but my mother and another woman who lived in our apartment complex, they were passing that big blue speckled roasting pan from one to the other. Somebody borrowed it and somebody was replacing it. And I asked my mother years later, I said, I remember the living room was a peach color. The walls were peach colored. She said, that's right. So that's my earliest memory, is standing at the door with my mother, passing that blue speckled roasting pan from one hand to the other. Wow. Somebody borrowed it, somebody returned it.
That's amazing. So why do you think this memory is so clear?
I have no idea why it is. And it's so funny because people put on Facebook, do you remember this? Do you know? And I said, remember, I still have one of those blue speckled roasting pans. I don't know why I specifically remember that, but it sticks out in my mind so clearly. And it sticks out in my mind so clearly that the walls of the apartment, of the living room, were peach colored. And so
that's intriguing. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Okay.
I love the idea of, well, I did listen to a podcast conversation you had, right? And I think you were activated when you heard the young man who is like 61 years old, but you were activated when he spoke about the legacy of what is being created. And I think the blue speckled pan represents a legacy. As well, as much as there is the legacy aspect in there, the value of sharing.
Right. Exactly. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is sharing among family, friends, neighbors, and the more we do that, the closer we are together. And I think these days with internet and everybody in their house and everybody on their devices, we are not out sharing with people as much as we used to be. And it's funny because I remember a couple of years ago, I live in a big house in a historic neighborhood in Detroit, and for some reason a truck was going down the street and backed into the cable tower around the corner and knocked out the internet for the whole neighborhood for a few hours. And it was in the summertime, and everybody walked outside. I didn't know you lived here. You live across the street. There's no reason to sit inside at your devices because the internet was out. Yeah. And I remember that very clearly as a reminder, we need to be out and about, not always sitting in the house behind our devices looking at our screens.
Love it. Pamela, if we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
I look at that, and I don't remember the exact song, but being a Detroiter, it was something from Motown. It was either the Supremes, the Temptations. It was probably something by Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is my number one favorite singer. Yeah. So let's see. When I was 12, Stevie was 12, and so it was probably Fingertips Part 2.
Well, we do know the power of the fingertips, right?
Yeah, we do.
All right, Pamela. Well, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Pamela, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Actually, yes.
Are you married?
Yes, I am.
Do you have children?
I have yes. I tell people I have 6 children. I actually have 3 children, and then my first husband and his second wife, she's absolutely wonderful. It doesn't happen all the time, but it doesn't, but she is absolutely wonderful. The two of us look very much alike. And years ago, she said, we're all family. Yeah. So she brought the whole family together. So they have 3, we have 3. So I always say I have 6 children because they all grew up together.
A speckled pan, right?
Exactly.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes, I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
I wouldn't say I watch TV. I usually have it on in the background.
Okay.
I keep telling myself when I go on vacation, I'm going to binge watch all these shows people talk about. But I never get around to doing it. So I usually have Law and Order on in the background. I can tell you every Law and Order episode from from all the Law and Order shows. And that's pretty much all I have on in the background. But I'm not really a TV person.
What about screen time? The phone and the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Oh my gosh. It's probably more than 8 because I'm a gadget girl. My dad loved electronics. Back in the day, he would go get, back in the day when people only had one TV in their house, we had a TV in every room because he loved to find broken TVs and broken radios and fix them all.
Wow.
So, he passed that on to his daughters. I have 3 sisters. My dad had no sons. So he taught us everything that you would ordinarily in those days teach boys to do. So we call ourselves the Gadget Girls.
That's great.
My sisters, you would not believe. We're getting ready to go to Baltimore. We have a big Thanksgiving family reunion every year in Baltimore at my sister's house. And you've never seen so many MacBooks, iPads, in one place outside of the store. He has to call the cable company to come and up the internet level. And so I love gadgets. So when you screen time, I'm probably on one of my devices all the time.
If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who you are, what would you say that is?
Oh, let me see. I don't know. I guess you can say I'm a very type A person. You can tell that by the way I talk. I love people. I love working with people. I love being around people. But on the other hand, I love being by myself too. So I guess I love helping people. I've always done that. You can ask my children. I guess that's why I became a teacher. So I guess that's my real statement, being about people and being about people from all over the world. I am so glad I was raised that way. When I was coming up, we had people from all over the world just living in our neighborhood, and I was raised that way. And now that I'm an adult and I get a chance to interact with people all over the world from all different cultures, all different religions, all different races and everything, I just love it. That's my real statement. I love people.
Love it. Pamela, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, thank you for listening, and please log on and subscribe to my podcast, YB2C Live, on iTunes. And just hello to everyone in the world. I love it.
Pamela Hilliard Owens, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.